China is the dominant engine of the world government. It is collectivist. Their leaders are bloodthirsty eugenicists who are anti-family, anti-Christianity. They are embraced by the eugenicist elites out of England, the United States, and Europe. If you go back 30 years ago, the Council on Foreign Relations said the 21st century will be the Chinese century. We will be deindustrialized. We'll have a currency war, which will really be a currency devaluation. Then we'll come out with a global Bancor. They also called it the Phoenix. And now the IMF last year officially announced they want the Bancor. That will be partially backed by gold, issued by the private central banks, and also partially backed by the Chinese currency. And we would cover this 15 years ago on air, and people would laugh at us. Oh, China, they could... Now, this is the most important point. I'm coming to it now. China, they can never take over America. China, they can't do anything to us. China has no power. Why, we got 20,000 nukes. You know, the Chinese, they can't even get a rocket into space right. And so Bill Clinton and Laura Allen Hughes give them the ICBM technologies to get their long march into orbit and to be able to hit anywhere in the U.S. But that's not enough to get one ICBM up with only one warhead. That'll only destroy Chicago or Dallas or Los Angeles. You've got to have it when it pops open. It's got to have MERV. It's launched from its launch pads in northern China up over the poles. That's the shortest route. It's coming down over Chicago or New York, back into the atmosphere. The nose cone blows off, and there are 12 to 24 warheads. But you want some dummies, too, so that any ground-based lasers or missile-to-missile systems or railgun anti-missile systems, those are highly classified. That'll get the NSA humming right there. If they're trying to shoot down the warheads, not going to be able to get them all. Okay? So they give them everything. Oh, we'll put more taxes, more regulations, more environmental stuff on the U.S. China, you get none of it. Then we have all our politicians lecturing us. You need to be more like China. The head of the Goddard Space Center yesterday. America's going down because we don't accept carbon taxes. China's smart. They're authoritarian. China's exempt. He knows that. They're giving us a false narrative of why we're about to collapse. We're being told that anything, a cyber attack could collapse the whole economy and cause bank runs and a shutdown of the currency any time now. And 9,000 telescreens are going in, now announcing the cyber attack's coming. Get ready, the whole web could be shut down. Homeland Security's trying to keep it safe. See, they're getting everybody ready for this to happen. And then there'll be pipe bomb attacks all over the country, blamed on domestic groups as they're collapsing it, so that anyone saying no to the collapse of the U.S. under the corporate global government, backed up by their attack dog, the murderous, all-time killer Chinese, the record killers. No one, Hitler, Stalin combined, could not touch them. And now our media, they're good, they're our leader, they're moral. Just all these leaders constantly, Ted Turner, just on and on, praising China, praising. I got a giant stack of news here today praising China, just how they are so wonderful. And I've talked to a lot of friends and family that have been there. China is hellish. And the cops are just completely arrogant, walk around like ring wraiths, just beat or kill whoever they want. It is just lawless evil. But I run into businessmen all the time that are in business with China, and I'll be sitting there just a few weeks ago to get some Mexican food, and I go up to the bar to pick it up. My wife says, hey, I don't want to cook tonight. We put food up. I'm coming home at 5:30. I go, sure. I go in to get the food. I'm waiting at the bar, and there's a guy going, Alex, I've seen your show. Do you know how great China is? You know how wonderful, how they get things done? America's pathetic. They get a problem with an executive there, they just execute them in a week. That's how we need to be soon. And I didn't even argue with the guy. I didn't say, oh, really? That's why their lakes catch on fire and their rivers? Oh, that's why the Communist Party's so filthy rich and they keep the people down and forcibly sterilize the women? Oh, that's really beautiful. But see, it's this sycophantic thing. As long as you go over and grovel to the Chinese communist, then, oh, you're all part of the sickness of it. Same thing in the 30s when Hitler was a rock star in the U.S. My grandfather grew up in Dallas, and the Dallas radio stations would play Hitler speeches and say how great he was, with English over it. cover in Time magazine. Just he is, life books. Stalin's great. Mussolini's great. There's this love affair. And, of course, it's not that the elites are stupid and got fooled by Hitler. They were building him up to destroy him. And that could be the case with China. This is very sophisticated here. But if you think of it as America against China, or America against Russia, or Russia against China, or Russia against the U.S., or vice versa, that is in two-dimensional, like playing checkers. This is an advanced game of chess. This is geopolitical stratagem, where you've got the globalists, the robber barons, the banks, that sit above the two-dimensional players of China, Russia, and the United States, all deeply in debt. All their infrastructure is financed through fraud by the banksters. The banksters' wealth is in the quadrillions of fraudulent made-up digits. And their entire global police state is about forcing you to accept those quadrillions as legitimate. Their mega Ponzi scheme. Their pyramid of total pyramids. You understand that? They know exactly what they're doing. And so it's a balancing act through the UN, through the IMF, through the World Bank, through all these regional boards where they're always jockeying with each other, playing the nations off against each other, the race to the bottom, the destruction of the middle class, the destruction of the infrastructure, always competing with the authoritarian China, who takes their 10-year-olds and puts them in slave factories. They're now openly saying they may drug the water supply in China to stop the epidemic of suicide. See, it's not that the society's sick, it's that you're sick because you don't like working 18 hours a day in fumes in the iPad factory. So that our kids can be in the matrix, not communicating with friends and family, just staring into their iPad or their iPhone. Not saying an iPhone or iPad is evil of itself. How it's being built is evil. What it's doing to us, what we're allowing to happen is evil. Now, there's also a war on being able to recognize evil. They tell us there is no evil. Let the government do whatever it wants, but then it moralizes to you all day about how you should feel guilty and give up your rights. So that's the key to understanding this. China, we are being told, is the owner of America. We're seeing the Chinese flags. The AP says that's to let Americans suspicious of China know they shouldn't be suspicious. No, it's meant to throw it in our face. It's meant to get us ready for more outrages. We're being dragged through the mud. We're being conditioned to accept all of this. That's what Richard Nixon was about. That's what Bill Clinton was about. That's why all of it came out, that he was doing all these things with cigars and lying and raping women and selling things out to communist Chinese and murdering Ron Brown and blowing up Oklahoma City. It's meant to just get you to where you totally just accept that they do that and they get away with that. Just like the TSA is going to put their hands down your pants to train you. And now it's in the news that even if you refuse the naked body scanners, they make you walk through them, though. See, it's just that little act of submission. Okay, I'll arrest you if you don't do exactly as I say. You're allowed to opt out. Just a regulation. All made up. But I want you to go ahead and walk through anyways in front of the people. And they admit that's to condition everybody else watching that it's safe. They don't want to see one of the sheep not going into the slaughter pen, even if you're not going to slaughter that Judas goat, you know, the goat that leads in the other sheep, but then goes out on the other side. They're making you become a Judas goat. It's all animal psychology. The minute you use your higher order thinking, the minute you start scanning their scams, the minute you start analyzing what they're doing, the minute you decide to not just receive it like a chump, it's all over. But it's up to you. So, here we are. And they're humiliating us with these announcements of how China runs our country. And they're overrunning the nation and filling all the new people that are brought into the country that could be helpful parts of the nation to empower the country with their own nationalism to hate the United States so they can balkanize us and all control us. And it's that same strategy globally. The global government is a global corporate empire that has all the wealth, and then now they're basically scapegoating China as our owner. And but they're scapegoating them by saying how powerful they are, by saying how great they are, by saying they run America. Remember how they did that in the 80s with the Japanese, and Americans were all upset. The Japanese are buying up America. The Japanese done got us. The Japanese were being taken over by the central banks. The central banks were the ones doing it, and they got Japan suckered in to the fast money, and so that incredibly productive country has been in a 15-year depression and is never coming out of it. And it's the same thing. China is a horrible hellhole, and by the globalists praising it and giving it pride, in China, that makes the people not rebel against their government, the good people of China, who have been rebelling with pickaxes and hoes and shovels and beating the police and military in provinces all over the country. I've seen the videos on YouTube that are snatched down quickly of just farmers who are sick of having their family land taken, who are starving to death, just running with hoes and attacking police, who then start shooting them. And then you just see the farmers overrun everyone, and then the tape cuts out. And our government, oh, pull that off YouTube. Don't let people see that. That'll embarrass our Chinese friends. So this is meant to make the American people hate the Chinese people. The Chinese media is always demonizing the U.S. That's meant to have their people hate us. While it's just the corrupt, bloodthirsty elite of China with the corrupt, bloodthirsty elite of America and Europe and the UN, they're all teamed up building this global government that's designed to actually cull out most of the population, because we're not just cheap. Life isn't just cheap. It's seen as negative. So the big issue here is that the global government is a corporate fraud government that sits above all the countries, and they're playing us off against each other. We'll be right back.